doing the case study of Helensvale, one of the properties that I'm also managing.
Aha. Thank you, Angie. And again, great to see you all on the webinar tonight. Thank you for taking the time to join us. I think what we're going to be showing you tonight, I'm super excited about, and I'm super excited and privileged to have Michael Jacob with us tonight. And we'll be doing I'll be doing an introduction to Michael shortly after this little case study. So I've selected this case study, and I've kind of been keeping it specifically for now because of the journey that we've had with this property, which has been absolutely phenomenal. And I'll take you through the journey when we started negotiating on this property and what it's all about. Now, the beautiful thing is this property in particular is a corner site, and it is your ordinary retail shopping center, neighborhood shopping center. So it's kind of your go-to, your shopping center down the road if you need something quick, convenient, your favorite Chinese restaurant or a massage or something like that. So it really is a beautiful little shopping center, being that it is your local neighborhood shopping center. Now, a lovely thing about the shopping center, Angie's just flicked on the slide there, right next door to it is a preschool, so a kindergarten. And you can see by this slide that it's on a corner and it's on a roundabout. So it's kind of where the neighborhood, it's a bit of a destination, which we really, really love. The other thing that was really good about this property, and something that really caught my eye when I first looked at it, was that the lettable area is 799 square meters, whereas the entire land, so the gross leasable area, is 299 square meters, which means it's almost 3,000 square meters with a building size of only 774 square meters, which immediately says to me that two things: either it is area that can't be used, hence they haven't used it, or it's area that can still be used. So in other words, that we can add value to. So when we first had a look at this property, that kind of caught my eye, and I thought that should be something fantastic to look at. But the other thing that was great about this property is, and it was sort of came to me off market, and the agent that I was speaking to was a residential agent. Now, this residential agent has no experience whatsoever in commercial property. So his property listing was very confusing, I can't say that it was misleading, but his information memorandum just didn't flow very well. And you could see that he kind of struggled a little bit to put this together. Anyway, and we got into conversation, and the property in itself was on the market for 2.8 million, which was your average 7%, which was good enough to look at. So we started negotiating, we started looking at this property in March of 2020. Now, if you remember what happened in March of 2020, that was right at the beginning of COVID-19. Everybody was talking COVID-19. Nobody knew what was going on. There was chaos that was happening in the market at that time, because people who were trying to sell were pulling their properties off the market. Agents didn't know whether to say to them, put it back on, take it off. You know, they didn't know what was going on. This one in particular, she actually took off the market. However, we carried on negotiating with her. So we just assumed that she had it on the market. She's going to want to sell it at some stage, whether she sells it now, whether she sells it later, whenever it is. So the thing to learn about this is stay in the deal. Okay, so the person who stays in the deal is the person who gets the deal. Last week we had Graham on the webinar with us, and I was having a bit of a laugh with Graham because he said to me, Mish, if there's one thing that I'm going to remember you for, it's your tenacity. So I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, because I never know when to give up. But I'm going to take it in this instance. It really, really worked very well. And it really has been working very well for a lot of the deals that I get involved in. So we've dropped some numbers on the screen there. And before I get into that, I'm just going to tell you that the negotiation started in March, and we basically went to the offer was finally accepted in May. So it was actually quite a short space of time when all of this happened. But being that there was so much that was going on, it felt like it was a hell of a lot longer. And what happened is, she bought this property 10 years ago, and I think the property was in beautiful condition when she bought it. We looked back and had a look at the history of the property. It was fully tenanted. And what the vendor did is she left it be over the 10 years. And to her, unfortunately for her, and probably fortunately for us, it got to the point when you have a property like this and you leave it to just roll over. You either need to have very, very good management who can run the property, because bearing in mind that you have this relationship with tenants, and tenants are human beings, they have needs. So while the tenants were speaking to her about doing upgrades or painting or cleanups and that sort of thing, she didn't want to have a bar of it. And it got to a pinnacle point where she'd had the property for 10 years, and the tenants were at the point where they were just over it. And that's often what happens when we find these properties. I call that a red flag. So I go out looking for those types of red flags when looking for a property. And it's looking for the pain points, because I know that we can fix the pain points. So this property in particular, on the screen, you'll see that we put up a spreadsheet now. This is one of the tools that we use. Sorry, Ange, you've jumped one too fast. This is one of the tools that we use when we're analyzing a property. And we can do this very, very quickly by just putting the basic numbers in. And what it does is it spits out for us a lot of information that tells us whether it is market relative, what the cost per square meterage is. Now, by looking at the cost of per square meter, we can do a quick analysis and see whether it is market relative. We can see what the gross yield is. We can see what the net yield is. We can have a look at how the rent is structured. And from there, we can start massaging the numbers so that it works in our favor. So this was actually pretty good at that stage, pre-COVID-19, a 7.6% yielding property. Retail in that area was fantastic. As we went through the negotiations, bearing in mind that COVID-19 started, the tenants were kind of going, whoa, we can't trade anymore. We're not paying our rents. The agents that were managing the property were kind of going, okay, so what do we do? And the worst possible thing for them happened: miscommunication. The owner, the vendor of the property, didn't know what to do. She didn't tell the agents what to do. The agents didn't know how to respond to the tenants. The tenants were all going, well, you know, we don't know what's going on, so we're not going to carry on paying rent. We want deferrals. And there was this absolute bungle that was happening. And while this was happening, we were busy looking at this, and we were busy negotiating in the back end and saying to her, look, this property is about to hit the wall, okay, because all these tenants are seriously unhappy. And what was happening is I was visiting the property a lot at that time, and I was engaging with those tenants. So as a result of that, the tenants actually got to like me very much. And they were asking me what to do. And, you know, I said, well, it's out of my power. There's nothing that I can do to help you at this point. But by virtue of the fact that I was keeping close to them, I knew what was happening in the back end. And it got to a point where she just said, it's all too much, take another offer. So we put an offer in. She didn't accept it. She took somebody else's offer. And now COVID-19 was full on in April, and their finance fell over. Now, the offer that we put in was a very, very strong offer with good finance, and she could see through the agent, and I sat down with the agent, bearing in mind that the agent was a residential agent, so he didn't really know, how to negotiate this. Don't get me wrong, he knew how to negotiate very well, but he wasn't too sure about the commercial aspect. And I just said to him, this is an opportunity. This property is going to implode. He has a great offer, and it's going to be wound up within 30 days. She can have her money within 30 days. So she accepted our offer of $2,075,000. That was $625,000 saving on this property, first off. Okay, I knew that I had massive mountains to climb to get this property back up to scratch. Okay, Angie, do you want to go to the next slide? So what we did from there, the minute we took this property over, the first thing we did is we started speaking to the tenants. We started looking at their leases. We started analyzing their leases, giving them deferrals, helping them out, and bearing in mind, we hadn't settled the property yet, but we were now on contract. And with that communication, we could start seeing light at the end of the tunnel and shifting things forward. All right. So through this process, what we've managed to do, and I'm going to give credit to Angelique, who has been very instrumental in working with me on the tenants and on getting all these tenants back on track. It has taken months to get them back into line, let's say, paying their rents, sorting out the deferrals, going back. The long story short is this building is now 100% fully tenanted. And this process happened right throughout COVID-19 when everybody was saying, oh, retail, run a mile. We were saying, no, there's still people out there that want to rent. So this building is now, we've got 10 tenancies in there, all of them incredibly happy. The building itself probably requires a good couple of dollars work on it. So we do know, and while doing this, while procuring this deal for my client, I made him very aware of what the red flags were. Okay, so I think it's very, very important when looking at a property like this, that you put things in perspective. He's saved $625,000 on it, and he's probably going to have to spend about $100,000 to bring it back online. So realistically, he's still saving $500,000 in his initial purchase. Okay. The sweet spot is, what do we do with this building going forward? Now, we've identified that there's space for development, and in the short term, there's space for huge uplift before we go to development. All right. So I'm going to go back to that rental, because in the beginning, I mentioned that we brought it back on track. So on the right-hand side of the screen, I put a little spreadsheet in there that says, and we're going to talk about how do you add value in a very short space of time. So yes, we bought this property at a massive discount of 2.75 million with an existing rental of 213,720. So by the time we got all those tenants back in place and paying their rents, that's realistically what the property kind of was renting at, which gave us a yield from 7.6%, bearing in mind that's what she wanted right in the beginning, gave us a yield of 10.3%. So we purchased this at 10.3%. Now what's happened is we've added value. We've cleaned up leases. We've done lease, or rather rent reviews. And we brought that additional rental up to 237,800. Okay. Now, at 7%, now bearing in mind that the market is hot right now, we could probably sell this building tomorrow at 7%, which means that his revaluation of the building at 7% is 3.397 million. Okay, so what have we done here? Not only has he had a massive discount, okay, but we've added over $1 million value to this building. So he can have this building reevaluated at the current rental of $237,800, and they will evaluate it at 7% and give him access to over $1 million. Okay, so what can he do with that? Because now it's sitting in the building. Well, it's simple. If he's having it reevaluated, I call it rinse and repeat. It's an equity drawdown and go and do it again. Okay, so you can take that money, it's over $1 million, go and put it into another building similar to this, and we can do this again. Okay, now don't get me wrong, this was an opportunity that could just not be missed. We got lucky, we were in the deal, we stayed in the deal, and there was no ways that I was letting go of this deal, because I could see the light at the end of the box of gold at the end of the rainbow, put it that way. So we stayed in this deal. Not every deal works out like this, but a lot of them do have the potential. If you get to know the deal, if you get to know the vendor, if you get to know the agent and how they work, bearing in mind this was off market and it was with an agent who he knew what he was doing, but he didn't know commercial real estate. So it was a great opportunity, and these are the types of deals that I see every single day that I'm putting out there. And at face value, they might not look fantastic, but when you drill down into them, when you actually get into the workings of them, you can create this kind of magic.